Today guys, we're upgrading the Ryft. We're going to be locking the front and back differential, and we're going to be locking the middle in the gearbox, so no slip will be happening on the wheels. So let's pull along the tires and the wheels so we can get to the diff. Alright, so this is the first wheel. We're going to do time lapse and take the other three off. Guys, we're about to remove all these pieces on this differential so we can get inside to the gears, so we can change the gears and lock it up. So I'm about to take out every single piece what need to come out here, and I'm going to show you what's going on. All right, first thing first, I'm going to remove the shocks. I'm going to remove the upper link, and I'm going to remove the bottom links, and then I'm going to disconnect the dry shaft. All right, now let's get busy. Let's do some time lapse. So now we're going to remove the back differential from the body. We're taking off the two upper links here, and we're going to remove the lower links. We're going to leave the shocks on the lower links, and we're just going to pull this dry shaft apart, and the whole thing will come off. So we got one screw here with that nut. Just going to remove this, and we just push this screw over. This links is now off. That's it. So here we got two screws at the bottom here that we're going to remove. I'm going to close up those screws so you can see. Alright, so we get one of the bottom links off. We're going to move to the other one. So now that we have the back diff out, we're going to go ahead and scrap it down. We're going to remove all the pieces what need to come out here, which is the brake caliper and all that. So we're gonna take up those stuff, and I'm gonna show you what's going on inside there. All right, so let's get busy and take this off. So we're gonna remove this part here first. It's got one screw, pretty easy and simple to come out. This little screw, then we pull this part out just like that, and now we have two screws to remove the brakes, and then the caliper going to come loose. Two little screws you're holding this. There goes your brake caliper, and there goes the disc. So there are two screws right here that we get to remove. Alright, so the two screws is out. I'm just gonna pop this off. So now we're moving on to remove these other two screws here, and I'm going to do some time lapse and get this one out. Guys, this is what the shaft look like. So there is a look of what the two shafts look like. One short, one long. You know, you can't go wrong with it because the diff is basically one side short, one side long. But I wanted to show you guys the two pieces, what comes out. And now we're going to move on to remove the diff cover and get to the gear. So on the diff right here, guys, it's got 4 screws, and we're going to remove these 4 screws and get this cover off. So I'm going to do some time lapse. So now guys, remove the 4 screws. We're going to remove the diff cover and get to the gears. Now the gear is packed with grease. There goes your gear. Well, grease up in there. Okay, so now this is the part that we're dealing with right here. Gonna slide off these bearings, and we're gonna remove all this grease. Let's see if we can put this back in there. Alright, so now that we get rid of the grease, we got this 4 screws here that we got to remove. I think I'm gonna need some tissue paper for this right now. So now we clean up the gear. We're gonna remove these 4 screws. The screw is not tight at all, guys. Pretty loose in there. And hopefully when we change these gears here, we have no more slipping on the tires and wheels, so we can climb rocks much better. We can get the Ryft to crawl like a crawler supposed to crawl. There goes inside your gears, guys. This little thing in there, it's got 4 different gears in here, and this is how this thing missing all the time. We don't need that. So we're gonna remove this from in here, and we're gonna put our new locking gear. There you go. And now we're gonna get the new gear and put in here. So now we're gonna put in the locker gear to lock the back wheels off. And it's pretty simple to get in there, guys. It's just one piece of metal, you know, with the 4 corners or 4 edges. And we're gonna drop this in here like so. That's it. So it's pretty simple, guys. Trust me. You see how easy it is. You just line it up with a groove and just pop it in there. And now we can put this back, line up the screw holes, put the screws in there. It couldn't be more easier, guys, to lock up the gears and turn this Ryft into a crawler. So I know I'm gonna have a lot of fun with all these wheels have power at the same time. No more slipping. I can't wait to show you guys what this Ryft can do on the rocks. All right, let's get some time lapse and complete this. Guys, so we put the gear back together and everything seems to go back in perfect. It is pretty simple to deal with this gear. I think the toughest part is to take down the whole diff, you know. So now we're gonna put back the bearings and we're gonna put it back up inside the diff. All right, so this is that. 2 bearings is back. Now we're gonna pull the diff up here and put that in. Now the cool thing, if you forget how it comes out, you can see that line in there where the grease, what the grease make. You can just put it back in there like so, just like that, and we're good to go. So now we're gonna put in the pieces of shaft and turn it and see how it works before we cover it up. You can see everything is moving smooth there. Dry shaft is moving at the back. It is working. Okay, so you know it goes, guys. The short piece for the short side, and I always put the screws back where I remove them so I don't misplace which screws come out where, you know. That's something I do all the time. Every time I remove a screw, I put it right back so I know what screw come out where. So now, simple, we just gotta push this in there. There you go. Sweet. It's locking, you know. So now we can turn it. And you know the 2 screws come out right here, so that is no sweat. We don't have to go searching around for the screws. I'm gonna do some time lapse and get rid of these screws. So guys, we get one side in and let me show you how it goes. You can definitely see when you spin, we get this side in, and you can definitely see when you spin, everything is connecting. So that is wonderful. Pretty easy to deal with, guys. So now we're gonna put this side in. I'm gonna take out those 2 screws. So that's just my little technique, you know, that I use all the time to make sure that I don't go searching for the screws. I put them back as I remove them. All right, so now we're gonna put the shaft in there. All right, connect. So now we're just gonna put up the screws, and you know how we go, guys. We're gonna time lapse. Guys, we get the shafts and them inside. You can see everyone is doing his job, so they are working. So now we can put this diff cover up. All right, so the cover in place. So now we're just gonna flip him over and put the screws. All right, so we're gonna get some time lapse going. So guys, the diff is back together with the new part inside of it with the lock-off gear. So that means all wheels are spinning at the same time. There is no more slipping. And this is what we've been looking for. So we tighten up the diff. So now we're going to put back all the pieces that we removed from the diff. Pretty easy to put back those stuff. I left all the screws in place. All right, let me show you how it goes. Remove this little screw right here. Let's put back the disc brake and the disc and this little piece of hub right here. So I'm sticking this inside it like that, and I line up the hole right here. So I'm going to put this right over the hole, just like that, and I'm going to drop that little screw right there. All right, so we get the pin inside of the screw. We're just going to screw this down. All right, this is done. Now we're gonna remove these two little screws right here so we can put on the brakes. Pretty easy to deal with, guys. All right, so it's back together. Let's move to the next side. So we completed the back differential, and the back differential was pretty easy to deal with, guys, and everything is back in place right now. So we're going to move to the front axle, and I'm gonna make this one very simple, guys. I'm just gonna do time lapse and take out every piece that we need here. It's the same process like the back, so it's pretty simple. So let's get into time lapse. Guys, to remove this shaft on the front differential, you have to just remove these two screws right here, and you got two nuts at the bottom, two little nuts right here. This is gonna drop down, and what you're gonna do, you're gonna just tap this out, so you don't need to take off all the bricks and disc and all that. So let me show you how it goes. These two screws right here. The whole thing is off. Now that we got everything off, we take off the shaft. So we're going to go ahead and remove the screws at the back here. There's 4 big screws, and then we're going to get to the gear. So let's do some time lapse. So guys, we finally loosed the screws, and we can pop this cap off here. There goes your gear, pretty slick with grease. Gonna see if I can get all this grease off here and get it back in here. Okay, that's it. So now I'm just gonna clean this up for a minute and we'll be back. All right, we're back, and now we're just gonna remove these 4 screws. Let me just take off these bearings here. Bearing seems to be locked down pretty tight this time. Okay, so the bearing is off. Let's take off the other one. There we go. Now we can continue to remove the screws. So now, guys, we got to remove all these pieces. I'm gonna take this one off. There we go. We're gonna keep the gasket. And all these pieces here, we're just gonna pop them off. Push this piece off, and that's it. All the gears is off. So now we can move on to put the new one inside. All right, we're back. We're gonna put this gear inside this housing. All right, so guys, it's pretty simple in my view. You just look for this little grooves in them right here and slide it down in the groove, just like that. And that's it. And that piece of gear right here would lock up, so the front wheel will be locked, no more slipping, and that's it, ready to put it back together. Line up the holes. Now what I notice here, the gasket is not lined up, so we're just gonna line up the gasket holes with the hole for the screw. That's it. And now we can drop this in there like so, and we're just gonna line up these holes and drop these screws in there, and the job is complete with the gear. Installing the locker gear to lock the front wheel. We already did the back wheel. After this one, we're on to the gearbox. All right, let's get to some time lapse, guys. Now, guys, we finished. Put back up the 4 screws, and the gear is back together. So we're gonna put back the bearings, and we're gonna install it inside the housing of the differential. Okay, that's it. Ready to pop this back inside. Okay, it's back, and we're gonna put the shafts inside first before we cover it to make sure that everything is working. So let's get the shaft, short one first. We didn't have to take out any screws or anything. Pretty easy to deal with. So we're just gonna pop this in. Just gonna turn it until it fit in there. There you go. See the shaft is moving. So we're back. Drop these 2 screws here. And you know it comes with 2 nuts at the bottom. So we're gonna put the 2 nuts back where they came from. Right there. So I think the front one is a lot easier than the back one because we didn't have to remove all the brake pads and all that, you know. Now we're just gonna tighten up these screws. So now we're gonna put the longer piece of shaft inside the housing. I gotta remove those 2 screws here. And let's put it in there. All right, the shaft is inside. Put those 2 screws. And now we're just gonna flip it over and put the 2 nuts at the back. So guys, we get all the shafts inside and look at that. You turn one, the other is turning. So all gears is locked up, all wheels is locked, and everything is working fantastic right now. Trust me, I love it. All right, so that's the vibes we're on today. You know, upgrading the Ryft, and we're locking up the 4 tires for the 4 wheels. And also we're moving on to lock off the gear inside the gearbox. So the gear what running the dry shafts on them, we're going to lock that up. We're not going to have any slip anyway. All the wheels will be pulling at the same strength at the same time, and that will give us better crawl on the rocks. So now we know that the front diff is working good, the back is working. What left to do is to put on the differential cover and move on to the one inside the gearbox. Okay, so we're gonna pop some time lapse. So right now guys, we're gonna put back the steering on the servo. And then we're gonna move on to put this control on here. So we're just setting back up the differential. After this, we can move straight to the gearbox. All right, so just like this. Now we move on to this section here. All right, so we're back. And now we can move on to the gearbox. Guys, so we have the gearbox out of the chassis now, and this is the part that we're going to be dealing with right here. This guy, we got that out. So now we're gonna scrap this down and get inside of the gearbox so we can change the parts in here. Let's strip this gearbox down. 3 screws up front here. Take off the piece of plate in front of the spur gear and the pinion gear. Oh, good thing I went in there, guys. See what happening? Pinion gear is slack. Wow. Okay, put this here. So now, guys, we're gonna remove the spur gear. Spur gear is off. Let's go do some time lapse. All right, let's open up this gearbox. Let's disconnect the servo and we're gonna get down inside this box. There we go. All right, so we're inside this box. This is the gear that we're gonna be dealing with today. So to get that out, I think we have to loose this, and that way it's gonna come off. All right, so let's take this off here. There we go. The gear just pop off, and the bearing for the top here got to remain in there. Okay, so now let me remove that bearing here. So our journey here right now is to take off these 4 screws. All right, let's pop those 4 screws out and get the locker gear inside. All right, we're off. Guys, this is the gear that we're going to put inside of the gearbox. This gear is pretty heavy than the other 2 that we put in the differential. This one got some weight. This look like all I'll be needing is this. So that's it. It's not going to be using this anymore. And we're just going to line up the holes, get the screw in there, and we're on the road. So this one is just as simple as the other 2. We're not using the plastic housing anymore. This is it, guys. If you're thinking about doing this upgrade, I hope this video can help you, because I see it to be very simple and very helpful to make the Ryft a crawler. So if you're thinking about making your Ryft crawler, those are the gears. Now the gear feel a lot heavier, guys. Feel beefy in my hand. Alright, so just gonna lock him down real good because we don't want it to go loose. I couldn't believe that my pinion gear went loose on me. I heard the vehicle was making loud noises, but I thought it was just metal to metal, but I didn't know that it was loose. It's a good thing I come back in here to do this upgrade so I can find it. Alright, so this is our new locker gear to lock the gearbox. We're ready to go back in. Pretty straightforward, guys. This is gonna go like so. There we go. So there was something else I wanted to do here as I'm in here. Now this piece of metal right here, that is for the gear to shift, and when that piece of metal there, it makes the gear very tight. This to go into the first and second gear, it makes it very tight. See how simple it's moving now and how easy. Let me push this piece back so you can see. You just put an extra force on it, you know. It's pretty tight, and plus when the other piece come down and hold it, the other piece of cover like this, when that come down and hold it, is gonna stiffen these gears, you know. I'm thinking I'm gonna remove this. It's pretty tight in my hand. When I take it off, see, it's a lot easier. That's it. I'm not gonna put this piece back, guys. This piece of shaft have to come in here, and plus I gotta put this bearing back like so. So we got 2 bearing, and this piece need to come off. Remember, we popped this out from inside this one, so we don't need that no more. And this piece right here is coming in there like that. There we go. And then this goes like so. All right, set it back in place, guys. Swinging pretty smooth. And there's a bearing right here. We're gonna come over here, so we're good to go. Now the servo can move easy without the piece of metal holding it back, you know, making it too tight. I noticed when you hold down the gearbox, still feel some type of way. All right, so let's put things back together like that. So we're good to go, and now we can screw these things down. So let's do some time lapse. Alright guys, check this out. This is the 14 tooth pinion what come out, and this is the one that I'm gonna put. They're both 14 tooth pinion, but watch the difference. You see that little screw? This what was on the motor. So that screw is very small, but check this one, much bigger, much beefier, and we get a lot more of the shaft to hold on the piece of shaft here. There's a lot more, you know, so you can go in farther than this one with that little, you know, just thin piece right there. So I'm putting back a more beefier one, so we don't have this going loose on us when the going get rough, you know. So this one is out. This is going to use for something much smaller. All right, so now put in the spur gear. All right, spur gear is in, and now we're gonna put this little nut on top it. We're gonna have to lock it down with something like a screwdriver so you don't move when we tighten it, because we don't want it to go loose either. All right, that's pretty tight. And now we're gonna put the pinion gear. Always put the pinion gear on that little piece of shaft right here. You see that flat part? Always put the screw head on the flat part. So there we go. All right, I think we line up pretty good there. Now we have an issue with this one. Look at that. You do not want to touch. Yo, look at that. So the ring is much smaller than that one, even though it's 14. So we have a better shaft, bigger screw, but the outside diameter is much smaller. Man. All right, let's wheel and come again. Let's see what we can do. Okay guys, so I have another one, and this one seems as it's going to do the job. It is same size with the one that I took off, and this guy here I just see is a little bit smaller, and even better with this one that I just found. The shaft is even longer than the one that I took off, and the screw head is much bigger. So I think this is it. Let's put this up, see how it look. Perfect. All right, this is it guys. This is it. Now we can tighten it. See that little groove where the screwdriver just went there? That is so cool that they give you that groove so you can tighten it, because if that groove wasn't there, I don't know how I would have get to the screw head. All right, I lock it on pretty tight. Will look pretty good there. Okay, so now I'm still thinking to do one more thing. I'm gonna loose these screws here and see if I can drop it down a little bit more. So just gonna loose this guys, see if you're gonna come down any further. I think that's it. It's not gonna come down anymore. All right, just gonna tighten them back, and we're gonna cover up the gearbox, put back the piece of shaft. We can cover up the gearbox now, but before we cover up, we're gonna put back this piece of shaft right here, this piece. So we're just gonna line this up with the other one, just like so. Get this little screw right here, put that in there, and we're gonna tighten it up. And that will be it for the gearbox after we put up the cover. All right, so double check this one too. Beautiful. Now the cover is ready to go back over the spur gear and the pinion gear. 3 screws holding it down. All right, we're complete. Gearbox is back together. We changed the gears, so now we have all lockers right through. Everything locked. We're ready to go. So ready to put back up on the vehicle. Guys, now that the gearbox is back on the chassis, it's time to put the screws in the bottom of the chassis, and we're gonna go ahead and do some time lapse and get the screws in there. Guys, so now we're about to hook up the front diff on the chassis, and then we're going to put on the back diff. So we have everything ready to go, and it's just putting them back together. So we're going to do some time lapse and get this done. All right guys, check this out. All 4 wheels is pulling, so it's working, and I'm just going to show you the back wheels here. All right, so we're good to go. So all the diffs is locked now, and let's take it on the rocks, show you how it crawls.